Okay. What about when people soften butter by just like putting a jar over it? Does that make you mad?
No, man. I don't get mad how people like store their food.
Well, then what does make you mad?
I don't know. Racism?
You're a boring person, Cecil. You bore me.
Huh. Light switch is broken.
No, it's not. It's not.
Noah, are you in here?
Yep. Heath and Tom, too.
Hey, Cecil.
Hey, man.
Why are you guys sitting in here with the lights off? Also, why is it so dark in here?
Oh, we bought those blackout curtains because of how often Eli gets naked. You remember?
Oh, now that you mention it. Yes, I do remember that now. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I get itchy.
Now, the blackout is for this week's episode about energy accidents. Reading over all of these stories made me think about how, we take things like power for granted so often. Maybe all of us could just spend the night the way our ancestors did, telling stories by candlelight, exchanging ideas, hell, just looking at the stars.
That does sound nice, actually.
It does.
Yeah. Just let me turn my phone to silent. Hey, Noah, you sure this is about us returning to nature and not about you not wanting us to see the news or Facebook, maybe?
It's the nature thing.
Okay.
Why?
I don't know. Because maybe you punched an old lady at the 7-Eleven?
Damn it. The cops said they were going to wait until she woke up to take her statement.
I'll go turn on the breaker.
An old lady, dude?
She was paying in pennies, Tom.
Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, a podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts. Because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Heath, and I'll be hosting this meltdown. I'm kind of like the heavy water and control rods. Nuclear ballast. Fun. Love this. And I'm joined by the radioactive fuel, the neutron gun, the steaming rage, and, of course, the guy who pressed the do not press button that we have for some reason. Cecil, Tom, Noah, and Eli.
I do process lentils into hazardous chemical gases. That is true. That is true.
Listen, I'll tell you this much. I'm definitely not a light body reactor because I'm fat. That's why.
Yes, there it
I was
is.
going to give somebody else heavy water,
Fat,
but I gave
yeah.
it to me because just, I'm also.
I don't know if it's scientifically accurate, but I like the idea that nuclear accidents are precipitated by the reaction getting mad at us. So I'm
it's got
happy
a
with my
poetry
part
to
of it.
it.
Eli, you're here too? All right.
Weird.
Let's go ahead and start the show. Cecil, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event are we going to be talking about today?
The patrons. Oh, we skipped that. Energy accidents. Energy accidents.
Fantastic. So, other than fitting absolutely perfectly into our theme of tragic mass death and human stupidity, how else did you pick the topic?
So on the suggestion of patron Sin R. Johnson, I plan to do the Willow Island disaster that took place in 1978. But sometimes with patron suggestions, we get shorter articles that can't be a whole episode. So I thought, well, what non-nuclear disasters can I write about? Surely there's been some of those, right? Well, I stumbled across a page on Wikipedia called Energy Accidents. And interestingly, we have already talked about a lot of these. Centralia, Pennsylvania, episode 8. Lake Pennure, episode 85. Chernobyl, episode 1. And the Texas City disaster, episode 216. I will point out, despite my reputation for making episodes about disasters, 3 out of 4 of those are Noah episodes. So there.
Stop trying to make up reputations for yourself, Cecil. You jog and we're best friends. They're going to put it on your tombstone. You might as well get used to it, okay?
Anyway, this episode will be a lot of smaller and possibly lesser known non-nuclear energy disasters. Let's start out with the Great Smog of London. The year is 1952, and an anticyclone moves over London. Now, an anticyclone is actually a period of calm weather, and in this case, very calm and cold weather. The people of London started to fire up their coal-based heat all over the city. The problem, of course, was that coal that they had was not of high quality. The high quality coal had been shipped and sold to pay off war debts. So the people of London were left with low quality coal that emitted large amounts of sulfur dioxide.
Okay, yeah, low quality. As opposed to the high quality coal, which burns with the smell of freshly baked cookies and clean laundry. The fuck is happening? What are you taking a payout from Con Ed?
Clean coal.
Clean coal?
I'm sorry, but I love this weather naming convention, and I will herein refer to sunny days as anti-blizzards, right?
Yeah. So that anticyclone was a large heat mass holding in place a cold mass of calm weather right over the city. So once the chimneys started belching this smoke, it didn't just waft away in the breeze. There was no breeze, so it accumulated. This type of air pollution had its own name in London. It was called a pea super. It was exacerbated by the fog as the pollution hung in the water, leaving a yellowish mist everywhere. This smog was super dense too. They say that there was a 1 meter visibility, and that's
Jesus
3 feet,
Christ.
3-inch visibility in the daytime.
Holy shit.
This was also before
Seriously?
they had fluorescent lights that were commonplace. So they had these weak ass yellow lights from the 1950s that didn't penetrate the smog at all at night.
You know, I bet after all those years they'd spent in the blackout during World War II, this just had to feel like a real kick in the dick, you know? Like, well, we can turn on the lights after all those years. Nothing to see. It's just nothing to see. Huh.
I do find it interesting that, like, that one time London was like LA for a few days is of historical note. Though. That's
The smog was so thick, they stopped all means of public transportation.
again, just like LA.
except the London Underground. It was so pervasive that the smog would work its way indoors.
Oh, they had to
close
indoors
the
to that.
Yeah. But they had to close theaters because the smog was so thick inside the buildings that it made the movie screen too hard to
Oh,
see.
shit. Early 3D, right?
They also replaced a lot of electric transportation at the time. And all of that exhaust from coal-powered steam and diesel and gasoline engines filled the air and mingled with the coal smoke.
I say, fellas, maybe we could stop making smoke for a second while we're all trapped in the never-ending smoke cloud. No? Okay, just keep me.
Who's talking right now? Where the fuck are you even?
This caused absolutely no panic in Londoners who were used to this kind of crappy air quality. So they just stiff upper lung the whole ordeal. Number crunching after the fact revealed that 4,000 people died from the smog. The elderly and the young with respiratory issues were the most affected. The next year, they added 2,000 more deaths to the death toll after a re-examination and added 25,000 people that claimed sickness benefits during the smog. A report from 2004 suggests that it was actually not 6,000 as thought in 1953, but 12,000 people that died from the smog.
Jesus.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, Cecil. Smog. I think you misspelled liberal conspiracy.
All right, this is all sad stuff, but the UK energy sector is doing great here in 2023. So that's good. Were there any other hiccups along the way, or just smooth sailing ever since? What's next,
Okay,
Cecil?
look back. So here we go. Next, we're going in 1965 to Ferry Bridge power stations in West Yorkshire, England. These are pretty standard coal power plants along the River Ayr.
think it's
What is
Ayr.
that? Ayr. Along the River Ayr.
I don't know.
Whatever. I'll correct it. It doesn't matter. I don't read the email.
Just spell it like it fucking sounds. God damn it.
Right.
The cooling towers for smokestacks look a lot like cooling towers for nuclear plants. Both these plants run off steam. They just use different power sources. Anyway, these cooling towers are basically big cylinders that are a little thicker at the bottom.
I get it, cooling towers. Someday you'll meet a fiery redhead who prefers their cooling towers that way, and you'll be fine.
Aw. Did Anna have red hair when you met?
I was talking about Heath. But
Okay. My mom does love me the way I am. Whatever.
These cooling towers are rated for pretty high winds. However, when they rate these structures for wind, they do an average wind speed over the course of a minute. They do not account for gusts, or
What?
at least they did not at the time. I sure hope they change this. The cooling towers also were placed in like a specific way so that their grouping caused the winds to be forced into the towers, creating vortexes
Jesus.
that ripped the towers apart. These 85-mile-an-hour gusts of wind knocked down 3 of the 5 towers. Which is
Allegedly, Cecil, but coal doesn't burn that hot. We all know coal doesn't burn that hot. See how fast they fell?
That is an anticyclone, goddammit.
All right, lots of talk about the UK being stupid with their stuff. I feel like that means it's time for the UK to hold West Virginia's beer or something like that. Right?
You are correct. You are correct. The next disaster happened at Willow Island, West Virginia, in
There it is.
April of 1978. This was during a time when a lot of power plants were being built in the Ohio Valley. They were constructing the cooling towers on one of the power plants and attached the scaffolding to the side of the structure. Many problems with the construction followed, but they were exacerbated by the fact that everything was rushed to completion. They did not allow the concrete structure to cure sufficiently, however. They also missed some of the bolts on the scaffold,
What?
and other bolts were not up to the proper grade.
Sorry, this
The
all sounds
scaff-
very sexual, right? You guys are getting a sexual thing from this, right?
This scaffold only had one access ladder, which meant that there was some kind of emergency requiring evacuation, that there would be a bottleneck.
Right. Also, 2 giants came over and played Jenga with the support beams every day. Come on.
Boss, the bolts seem to be anchored into what appears to be wet cement, and there's only 4 of them. They all say Acme. I think a coyote was installing them at the time. We should be right.
So on the 27th of April, the concrete on the Tower 2 that was put up the previous day started to collapse. When the cooling tower concrete started to fail, it basically started unwrapping the scaffolding from the tower and it started to fall away. First, it started peeling in a counterclockwise direction and then in both directions. As the scaffolding fell away, it took with it 51 construction workers, and they all basically just fell inside the cooling tower, and then the cooling tower, not all that structurally sound at this point, just fell on top of them.
Hey, did anyone notice we're going clockwise? I had a bet.
Anybody catch the angles on this? Somebody's going to do a podcast about it.
Okay,
Fucking-
it's funny.
Sorry, hats off to Tom, okay, who saw that sentence about 51 people being crushed to death under the weight of greedy capitalism, saw that Cecil left a space for a joke after it, and just dove the fuck in. Fucking just way to citation need, Tom.
Fine.
That's
Someone
right, yeah.
recognizes my
Mission.
genius. Thank you.
Statement.
It probably doesn't come as much a surprise that no one survived. And after it was over, there was an investigation finding 20 OSHA violations, including improper field testing of concrete and improper anchoring of the scaffolding.
And the
To add
towers
insult-
falling?
Yeah.
The ocean violation of they fell?
to add insult to injury here, the cases of the people who died settled for $85,000. That's not per person. That's
What?
total.
Oh
So
my God.
$1,700 a piece.
It's
The
ridiculous. either way.
DOJ, the DOJ did convene a grand jury for the deaths, but it's business, so no charges were filed.
Jesus.
I mean, counterpoint. Everyone who died were also the people who didn't let the cement dry and left out every other nail or whatever. What I'm saying is the price seems right.
I don't
I feel
know
like
that
it's a
that's-
good
Okay.
deal.
Well, as usual, people are dying tragically, and Eli's yelling Jenga. So that's fun. Let's just go ahead and take a quick break before he asks what the dead construction workers were wearing.
I mean, what were they wearing?
All right, everyone. Today we're going to be doing our wind testing for the cooling towers. These towers are going to be experiencing an average of 43-mile-an-hour winds, so we're going to make sure they are safe at that exposure.
Sorry, just a quick thing.
Yes, appears to be a question.
Did you say average of 43 miles an hour?
Yes, according to our calculations, that is correct.
Right. But the average, that means nothing, right? We want them to withstand the maximum wind they're going to be exposed to, not the average.
Well, you might think that, but no, then we could end up building structures that are too strong. So, so we'd like to do the average.
I'm sorry. What happens if the cooling towers of the power plant are too strong?
Thank you.
The project could slow down, could be unnecessarily expensive.
Right, but the alternative is that the towers fall over.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just spitballing here. What if we err on the side of, not having the towers fall over?
Look, gentlemen, I understand what you want, but we're a coal company. All right, we're perfectly aware that what we do for a living is dig a finite resource out of the earth and then set it on fire until it turns into a literal poison gas that can't escape the atmosphere.
So
what makes you think we give a fuck about people?
No, he's got us there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's true.
If only people were allowed to make laws.
And we're back. When we left off, the fossil fuel industry was giving us a really good reason to support the Jewish space lasers that Marjorie Taylor Greene told us about. What's next?
Okay, so the next one's a little close to home here. In 1984, Romeoville Petroleum Refinery disaster. So I grew up in two little towns southwest of Chicago. I lived in Romeoville and the city right next to it, Lockport.
What was your exact address?
I lived on South State Street, and there's now like a hot dog stand there where I used to live. Anyway, in 1984, a very young Cecil was outside his house on a summer evening playing with my precious few G.I. Joe figures by the outdoor spigot at my apartment. I won't regale you with the dastardly plot that Zartan was up to, but the spigot was running and the imaginary lasers were flying. Then, all of a sudden, the water momentarily cuts out. I feel a pressure wave and all my G.I. Joe guys that were standing abruptly fell over. I hear a loud explosion and I immediately thought it was a nuke because everyone thought that during Reagan. Everybody thought the next thing was a nuke.
Seriously, this happened right next to you?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, obviously you had a school desk to protect yourself or you wouldn't be here telling us this story. Still sounds pretty bad, though.
So I run inside, told my mom, and we both come out to a huge plume of smoke coming up from the refinery 7 miles away.
When I was a kid, we went to Disney World, but yours sounds fun too, Cecil. That sounds like a fun childhood.
I'm just, it strikes me as a great time to have known the other half of the fucking battle, right? Right now.
Okay, look, Cecil, I do want to know what happened with the explosion and everything, but we just get a minute here. Fill me in on the Zartan situation. Like, that loose thread is going to keep me up. Otherwise, I just...
Anyway, okay, so the problem turned out to be... I'm going to skip the Zartan thing. Eli's already bored with my old man stories. You could tell by his two comments, so I'm going to move on.
Multiple
No, it's fine. It's fine. I had two, but it's cool. Anyway, so the problem turned out to be a cracked
So it was a
bit
boxing match more than a war.
I like that Cecil said a few to like just stretch it a little bit earlier, and then he's like, it was two. It was
Zartan and the Baroness. Anyway, so the problem turned out to be a cracked bit of metal that was pressurized with gas. The tower where the crack appeared was made of 1-inch steel plates. It was 62 feet tall and 8.5 feet in diameter. The worker was doing some routine checks there, checks the pipes. I guess they noticed a hairline crack in the weld. At the time he saw it, it was 6 inches long. He went to shut off the gas, I guess, but they couldn't shut it off because the crack grew like in a few moments to 24 inches. At this point, they sound the klaxons and they evacuate. The company fire department shows up. Just as it ignites, it kills 17 people, injures 10. And you remember that tower that I just described, the 62-foot tall one made of 1-inch steel? The explosion shot it 1 kilometer away.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
Zartan was right on top of it. Yeah.
So cool. Here's the thing, though. Fun fact. that is now a beloved sculpture in Chicago called The Beam by an artist who owns the entire concept of black.
Yeah.
Building. There you go. So, what's the next fun anecdote, Cecil?
All right, this one's great. This one's really, you're going to love this one. In 1989, an UFA train filled with vacationers was traveling to the Black Sea in the USSR. About 900 feet from the tracks was a pipeline.
Oh, that's a great idea there.
The pipeline was originally used for crude oil, but it had been retrofitted for natural gas liquids. This ominous line is right after in the Wikipedia. Quote, in May of 1984, the Soviet Ministry of Petroleum had canceled the installation of an automatic real-time leak detection system, end quote. The next year, an excavator cracked the pipeline. The crack was 1.7 meters or 5.5 feet long. Right as the train is going by, the pipeline pressure was increased because of increased demand.
Okay, just real quick. I feel like a lot of these, Cecil, have real-time leak detection systems. It's just that it's one very loud, very sudden alarm.
Right? Well, the natural gas liquids leaked and the gas was not just dissipated in the air because the wind was still. So the gas, this is propane and butane, by the way, just accumulated in a valley that the train went right through. Now, these are
Yikes.
electric trains. And if you've ever seen one of these go by, you know that they normally travel with a full complement of sparking wires.
Cool, yeah. Also, 2 giant lightning dragons would play tag right there every afternoon. Come on, seriously?
So it ignites the gas just as the 2 trains were crossing through the valley, and there's an enormous explosion. The estimates of the explosion range between 250 tons and 10 kilotons of TNT. And for reference, the first nuke dropped on Nagasaki was 13 kilotons.
Jesus. Two trains seems excessive, right? Like Russia was trying to out disaster somebody. Didn't want a fucking energy accident gap, I guess.
The explosion destroyed 37 train cars. 7 of the 37 were instantly reduced to ash. Dozens of acres of forest were leveled, and even more were lit on fire. I guess the weather and the fire created a whirlwind of fire that survivors had to escape from.
Jesus
The
Christ.
explosion was so violent, it blew windows out 8 miles away. The pipeline explosion killed 575 officially, but 780 unofficially, and left 1,300 people injured.
Sorry, how did it unofficially kill 205 people? Were they in a plane over Pennsylvania?
Eli, the
Allegedly.
USSR's whole thing was unofficially killing 200 plus people. That's kind of their.
That's
That's the brand.
An investigation found that there were several potential causes that are unique to the Soviet Union and no other capitalist place on earth. Here they are. Hurried work culture, canceling the addition of telemetry, taking authority to stop trains away from dispatchers, changing the type and amount of the product sent through the pipe, changing the loud pipe pressure, cutting corners, no proper process in place for safe working.
All right, let's see what went wrong. I'm a professional at checking this. We got shenanigans, jiggery pokery, cutting corners. Are you writing this down? Ballyhoo. Write down ballyhoo right now. All right, Cecil, what else blew up because people are fucking stupid?
This next one is from April in 1992. The residents of Guadalajara, Mexico, started to whiff a particularly strong smell of gasoline in their city sewers. The residents were also seeing large plumes of white smoke coming out of the grates.
Right.
So the city investigated and found that what people's noses already told them, that there was just a lot of gasoline down there. They told the people that they were working on the problem and there was no need to evacuate. Then, quote, at 10 a.m. on April 22nd, manhole covers in the street began to bounce and columns of white smoke started coming out of them, end quote.
Jesus. Okay. Well, just in case you guys are wondering, a manhole cover weighs about 250 pounds. So, like,
Wow.
if they begin to bounce, there is, in fact, something to see here, folks.
Yeah. But I do kind of want to be there when one blows just so I can yell heads, right? Because I don't seem very
I'm
witty.
just picturing the beginning of Ninja Turtles, the game, when you pop, they shoot up, and then
Right? Who knew how much danger we were putting fucking pedestrians in
Yeah.
when we did that? Jesus.
Few minutes after the sewers turned into non-whimsical versions of the fountains at the Bellagio, 2 explosions rocked the city. 3 minutes later, another part of the street exploded, shooting a bus into the air.
Okay, that one wasn't the gas's fault, Cecil. That bus dropped under 50 miles an hour.
That was Sandra Bullock's fault, damn it.
4 more minutes, another explosion. Factories and city residents started to evacuate at that point, which was like 10 minutes or so after the first blast. At 10:23, another explosion blew up an entire intersection of roads, and 10 minutes later, another explosion in another part of the city detonated at an intersection. 4 more explosions would blow up the streets, and the last 2 hit simultaneously at 11:16, about an hour and 10 minutes after the first one.
I mean, can you blame him? The sewers had been drinking the water in Mexico for a year. I'll see myself out.
Boo. I like that one. That one
Thank
got me.
you, Tom.
Okay, so why was there gas in the sewer and why did it explode? Well, they installed new zinc water pipes next to the steel gas pipeline that was already underground. The zinc, along with the humidity in the sewer, caused an electrolytic reaction, which basically corroded the steel from the gas pipeline, resulting in a spill. The sewer itself also had a siphon system in it to move the water from one part to another. Now, a siphon is a great way to move a single homogeneous liquid, but the siphon was located at the bottom of the pipe and gas is lighter than water. So the siphon was busily sucking away all the water
wow.
and leaving more and more concentrated gas, and thus the sewer filled up with vapor until the explosion.
Okay, I feel like you checked that, right? I feel like these are fun science facts you learn before widespread urban installation. Just how does this happen? Some guy was just like, zinc, we'll use zinc. And it sounded cool to people. They were like, yeah, fuck, let's try zinc. I don't know.
Guys, we don't want it to look like we were too lazy to make it all the way through the alphabetical list of pipe materials, okay? Start at the back.
The explosions caused fires and destroyed 8 kilometers of streets.
Jesus.
Quote, by the accounting of Lloyd's of London, the reported number of people killed was about 252, although many estimate that the catastrophe actually caused at least 1,000 deaths. About 500 to 600 people were missing, nearly 500 were injured, and 15,000 were left homeless. The estimated monetary damages ranges between 300 million and 3 billion, end quote. 4 officials from the petroleum company were indicted, charged with negligence, and then cleared of all charges.
Yeah.
See, I get it though, right? So, seriously, Judge, this is Mexico. All the crimes going on, you're going to start punishing municipal negligence? You have a baby full of heroin strapped to your forehead right now, Your Honor.
Okay. The crime rate is way higher in the United States than Mexico, and unless you're talking about murder, in which case it's way higher.
Exactly.
Six times higher. But
Somebody's doing the murdering.
This last one is a railway disaster that also includes petrol and in no way mirrors anything happening in the United States right now at all. This one occurred in 2004 near Nishapur, Iran. On the tracks near the town sat 51 rail cars filled with sulfur, fertilizer, petrol, cotton, and wool. These train cars broke free and started rolling out onto the main tracks. And they rolled quite a way. It appears 20 kilometers before the cars derailed.
Really? Sulfur, fertilizer, petrol, cotton, and wool? This train is like a box mix cake for explosives.
yes, yes, I'm expecting Cecil to tell us about the wagon full of detonating cord that careened into the valley at just that moment.
So we were carrying thermite, and fucking lightning dragons were fighting also.
Now, there was not a locomotive attached to these cars. They just rolled down the embankment. But they were filled with literally everything to start a huge fire. And while the local rescue services came on the scene to see if someone had been trapped inside the burning car, locals gathered around to watch the operation.
Don't do that.
The cars themselves were not labeled as dangerous, even though many were filled with highly explosive or flammable contents. And this sort of thing never happens in the United States. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, every time they try to rewrite the rules, Big Train hires a philosophy major to argue what is flammableness until the government gives up and goes home. So,
Yeah.
nothing to be done.
While they're extinguishing the fires on one of the train cars just explodes. They say this was the equivalent of about 180 tons of TNT.
Jesus.
The resultant explosion destroyed the city it was nearest to and also damaged 4 nearby towns. The blast was felt 70 kilometers away. Everyone at the scene was either severely injured or killed in the blast. 295 people died in the explosion. 460 were injured. And here's a weird observation from Wikipedia to end with. Quote, the wreckage of the train and the village continued to burn and explode for several days, despite the cold weather, end quote.
What?
Right.
It's going to get too cold for fire?
I don't know, man. I don't know why that's in there, but it's there. It's there.
What?
I
Fire's
know.
what we use when it's too cold outside.
I know. I don't understand why it's there, Tom, but I left you with it.
Should have put a
I
giant...
said good day.
All right. Cecil, I don't know where we're going with this, but we normally do it. If you had to summarize what you've learned in one sentence, what would it be?
If you count up all the casualties, Noah is still way ahead because he did the show on the Taiping Rebellion, so he wins.
Damn
He
straight.
wins.
Damn straight. I am the Tom Brady of disasters on this podcast.
And are you ready for the quiz?
Sure, let's do it.
All right, Cecil. What natural disaster took place during my childhood that people should pity me for? A. 9/11. B. Really, Cecil? You need an answer other than 9/11? C. It was 9/11, Cecil. 9/11. 9/11.
Okay.
Or D. 9/11, Cecil.
Okay, Cecil, for the record, he had probably all the fucking G.I. Joes he wanted when he was a kid. You don't need to feel sorry for him.
I like
No
that what he
pity for
got
this
out of
guy.
that story was I wanted to be pitied, not that I wanted to share an old man story.
Also, Eli probably didn't even show up in New York that day, right?
First of all, we had a big meeting. No, but none of us showed up in New York.
Yeah, and you didn't tell anybody else. Unbelievable.
That's it. Secret answer. What is that? No
Elders of
Jews in
Zion?
the Jews in the towers.
Heath was doing an anti-Semitic trope, but it was a joke. It was satire.
It was a clever joke.
F. Keith really is an anti-Semite.
Okay.
He bought the Harry Potter game twice. I saw him. He did it
What?
twice.
I don't even.
Bought the deluxe version.
He's playing as a Gringot or whatever. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's pro.
It's a playable race.
All right, Cecil, every citation needed episode needs its own soundtrack. What are some options for this episode? A, Light My Fire by The Doors. B, Great Balls of Fire, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Okay. All right.
C, Fire Starter by Prodigy. D, Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. Or E, Uptown Funk. That one's just a banger. Banger.
That's such a
Banger.
fucking good song.
Banger.
Thank you,
I
Tom.
get it.
It would also be good for that. No, but that would also be like appropriate for the London Fog
Right,
one.
yeah, there
Uptown
you go.
Funk.
Best
Yeah.
one on this list is Firestarter by Prodigy. 100%.
All right.
I'm
I'll
a Twisted
give it-
Firestarter. C.
We're
I'll
in a
take
fight.
it.
Blinding.
Bruno Mars?
right.
Are you kidding? Whatever. Go ahead.
Twisted Firestarter.
I have one for you, Cecil. Which of the following actual G.I. Joe figures would it have been funniest for you to have been playing with at the moment of a deadly industrial accident? A. Roadblock. B. Breaker. C. Barbecue.
No.
D. Deep Six. Or E. Footloose.
They're all so
Because a
good.
foot would
They're all
come
so
loose.
good. I love it so much. I'm going to go with secret answer F, all the above.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was Footloose because his foot would pop
what a
off.
shame.
That was close.
It was
Thank you,
just Footloose. Noah, you stumped him. You're the winner.
though. All right. Well, I would like a Tom essay next week then.
All right. Well, for Tom, Noah, Cecil, and Eli, I'm Heath. Thank you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week, and Tom will be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can hear Tom and Cecil on Cognitive Dissonance, and you can hear Eli, Noah, and myself on God Awful Movies, Scathing Atheist, Skeptic Rat, and D&D Minus. And if you'd like to join the ranks of our wonderful patrons and feel better about yourself, get rid of that soul-crushing free rider guilt that I'm sure you have if you're not one of them, just consuming it for free without giving money to the arts, you can make a per-episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, listen to past episodes, connect with us on social media, or take a look at the show notes, check out citationpod.com.